Welcome to Plainview. I'm Jeff Ziders. Today we're talking about the movie Certain Women, 2016 film written, directed, and edited by Kelly Reichardt. Certain Women is an interesting movie. It's presented to us in a triptych, meaning a series of three essentially separate short films that are very loosely interconnected with each other. They're connected in some character ways, but mostly in location, in theme, and feel. Certain Women is the story of three separate characters, really four characters, four women who are in the Montana Western atmosphere, landscape in the late 20th century, early 21st century. And this film is really exploring, as the title suggests, a certain type of woman. And in this case, a certain type of woman, you might be able to define them as someone who is self-assured in terms of how they view their ownership of self, but someone who is lost, struggling, and someone who is really seeking to find what it means to be a woman in 2016. All three of the characters portrayed in this film, one is by Laura Dern, who we all know from endless movies, Michelle Williams, and Lily Gladstone, who has recently come to maybe a more broader fame for her recent film, Flowers of the Killer Moon. In each of these three stories, the women are highly skilled, highly trained in what they do. They are professional women. One is an attorney, one you get the feeling is an architect or some other sort of professional, and the third character, played by Lily Gladstone, is a rancher. She tends to horses. All three do well in their jobs, their careers, their professions, but what they seek seems to lie outside of what provides them joy in their day-to-day work life. In the first story, Laura Dern's character is an attorney who's dealing with a struggling client. Someone who has been through a work-related accident, whose life is dramatically changed and is suffering. In her role as his attorney, she seems to give him good counsel, good advice, but advice that he doesn't take seemingly because she is female. In our second story, we have the wife and mother in a small family who is looking to build a new home, a new sort of vacation home in the Montana countryside, who suffers to be able to express herself both to her daughter as a mother, seemingly to her husband as in love or infatuation with a reluctant teacher played by Kristen Stewart. What I found really compelling about these stories is the meditative quality of the editing, the meditative quality of the storytelling, and the overall sense of sadness and longing that comes from these characters. As I mentioned, these characters all succeed in what they do on a day-to-day basis. They provide legal counsel, they provide services, they maintain a ranch by themselves. But when it comes to seeking connection, when it comes to finding others that they can feel like they belong to or belong with, they're simply lost. It's not for a lack of trying. All three characters are reaching out. They're giving themselves. They're in their worlds, but they're not being reached back to. And I think what our director Kelly Reichardt is really trying to express to us is how in our current time in 2016 in America, in the West, how it is possible to have achieved a level of autonomy, to have achieved a level of self-assuredness while also still being lost, and how even sometimes the vehicles that bring women these levels of assurity can sometimes be the barrier that prevents them from connecting to an outside world. There's no overarching nice ending here. You could even argue that all three of the endings are pretty sad and pretty lost and pretty lonely. But I don't think our director was trying to send us off with a happy story. I think she was really trying to plumb the depths of what it can mean to be lonely and lost. The experience that I had when watching this movie for the first time this week was an incredible sense of peace. I really felt a connection to all three of these characters. I felt in how it can feel to be alone while also surrounded by other people, how you can feel alone while you're pursuing your interests, and how sometimes loneliness and feeling apart is a natural, organic part of existing. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I think what all these characters are trying to understand and to explore is how to reach other people and how to connect in new ways. And simply they're failing at it. But you can't fault them for trying. And I think the underlying, if there is a story of hope, or if there's a story of compassion here, it's in the ability for these women to try, and how only these feelings of loneliness, these feelings of longing, don't preclude them from trying, and then sometimes that's all that we can do. You can't make someone love you. You cannot make someone want you. You cannot make someone want to be part of your world. You can only give them the best that you can. And I think in what we found in all three of these stories is an authenticity and an honesty. And the reality is sometimes that authenticity and that honesty, probably most often, is not reciprocated. And all we can do is try. As a moviegoer, as an audience, this movie was incredibly, honestly, relaxing. It was meditative. It was compelling. It was quiet. The score is incredibly sparse. I really only picked up any non-diegetic music in the last 5 or 10 minutes of the film. And all the music in the film is from the world, meaning it's diegetic, meaning it's inside of the world. So radio's playing music from car stereos, things of that nature. You really only get the cinematic score coming in the very end, which I've read online. Some people didn't appreciate that coda. They didn't appreciate that ending, which does feel more cinematic than the rest of the movie. I think she was trying to put a little bit of an ending on these three seemingly endless stories. I think that's okay. I don't know that it succeeded completely, but I think she did a good job of trying to provide some level of summary. The ending shot, spoiler alert here, the ending shot is of our final character, Lily Gladstone, her character going about her day and tending to her horses, and that's it. The acting in this film was incredible. All three characters portrayed a level of inner silence and inner solitude and inner sadness that you could feel. You wanted them to have happy endings. You wanted them to achieve what they wanted to achieve, but it never really happens. This is a movie to me that feels like a hug, not a happy hug, not a warm hug, but just a hug from someone who knows that you're trying. I think it gives you faith, it gives you confidence in knowing that trying can sometimes be enough and all that you can do. And sometimes it takes a certain woman to reach out and to really try. I give this film out of 5 stars, 3.5 stars. Its meditative quality, I think the editing takes patience. It takes someone who's tied in and really watching. But if you give this movie your hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, I think you're going to walk away with a feeling of peace in nostalgia, even without a happy ending per se. Certain Women, 2016. Thanks for watching. This is Plainview.